All right, welcome everyone. I think we'll get started. We do have a lot of material to cover for today on this introductory session for engineering contracts using the contract management system. James, if you could flip to the next slide. Just as a brief introduction, we're pleased to announce that CMS for engineering contracts is now in implementation for newly awarded contracts. We have the functionality released into the production environment of CMS, although we have not awarded any contracts in the system yet. So that'll be the next step as contracts are awarded and onboarding users that are associated with those contracts. So it's a bit of a feat in the making, something that's been in the works for several years, but pleased to have this functionality available for use for engineering contracts. Today's session is really designed to be a bit of an introductory session to cover the core functionality that will apply to engineering services. We realize that many of you will not be in the system until you have an applicable contract. So this recording and session will be a useful tool to refer to in the future. And we will also be providing future, more specific training sessions as required. So as I mentioned, the session is being recorded. We will use that for future training and also make it available to those that were in attendance and those that weren't able to attend either one of the sessions as well. My name is Jamie Lozon. I'm the head of the Business Solutions section that has been leading the work on the development of the new contract management system. Also with me today is James Flanders, who will be taking you through the majority of the presentation, and James has been our implementation lead for the engineering module of CMS. There's James. And then we also have Ryan McCarricker, who has the team lead in the Business Solutions section and is very knowledgeable in the system on both construction and engineering side of the business. Next slide, please. Just a couple of items around housekeeping for the meeting. We do have, it looks like right now, over 120 people and probably get some more that are joining. We ask that you do raise questions as you have them. You can use either the chat feature, and we'll be monitoring that as we go along and kind of stopping at the end of each section to review any questions that have been raised. Or you can also raise your hand and we can answer a verbal question as necessary as well. We do ask that you just keep your mic on mute throughout the session just to avoid any background noise. And just wanted to also raise that we will be doing a brief feedback survey using the polling feature in Teams at the end of the session, just to give us some feedback on how we can improve future sessions and also how we can incorporate content that you would like to see in future sessions. So we did the same presentation last Wednesday for about 200 and some users, and got some good feedback and some good things to focus on for the future as well. Next slide. So the objectives for today are really a general use training, as I mentioned, covering the basic functionality, getting you a little bit familiar with the system. We'll go through some slides for each of the core functionality, and then also follow that up with a brief demonstration of what it looks like in the actual application. Again, it's your opportunity to ask questions and we can provide answers. And just a reminder that future training and resources, and we'll talk more about the resources that are available at the end of the session, but they will be made available to you along with a copy of this presentation and the recording from the session. So the next slide, I think, just covers the agenda. So we'll talk about some general functionality within CMS itself and how the system works. We'll talk a little bit about user management and project setup. Those items are primarily geared towards our engineering services technicians and internal staff, but I think it's good to go over them briefly as well. We'll talk about meeting minutes application and the functionality that's available for that. Excuse me. File Manager, which is an application within the system that allows you to store files that may not have a home in a particular application or business process. Submittals and submittal packages are one of the key functionalities that engineering will use to submit deliverables and track deliverables and do all the reviews that are associated with those. The change management process for any change orders or change requests that are involved on an assignment, how we'll process invoices, the engineering performance appraisals, and a milestone application, which is really an out-of-the-box feature, but allows you to identify key milestones and schedule elements within the system. And just before I turn it over to James, just a couple of key messages that we like to kind of get out there. This is the first time that we're implementing a contract management system for engineering assignments. So it is a significant change and a step forward for our business that we feel will help enhance collaboration, data management, reporting, and transparency overall. It was a recommendation from the provincial auditor a few years back that we manage our contracts in a more systemized way, the way that we do with construction side of the business as well. So we're excited to bring this change forward. We also recognize that the transition to CMS will take time, and it'll be a learning curve for both internal staff and for external users. We do have opportunities. It's a long-term contract with an initial 5-year term with an extension to bring that up to a 9-year contract in total. So we do have time to make improvements, add additional functionality, but for go live, we think we've got the core functionality for the assignments baked into the system. That being said, there's a lot of processes and documents and approvals and things that are associated with engineering assignments. There may be things that either internal processes or minor processes that aren't specifically workflowed as a unique app within the system. That's okay because we do have the file manager where we can have a repository of any of those items that are easily accessible to anyone on the project. And then just at the bottom there, the expectation, and that's been communicated internally, and I believe with ACEC and other stakeholders within the industry, is that where the functionality is available for engineering contracts, we will look to use the functionality in CMS to the greatest extent possible. I know we're all used to using emails and other methods, but the intent is to really get the contracts in that are applicable and use the functionality to the greatest extent possible. So with that being said, I will turn it over to James and we can start going through the different pieces of functionality for engineering assignments. So thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Jamie. So yeah, with general functionality, I'll cover a few things like navigating the platform, how to adjust and change your own personal settings, how to just navigate and create, view, and edit a standard record, working within the hierarchy of projects and contracts, communications, and then tasks within the system. So first thing of note is the platform is internet-based, so you can access it through a browser, a desktop app, which basically creates a desktop browser that allows you to connect to the network. It's just sort of a way to connect to the system, and that's the one I'll be using. As you can see here, launch.kuo.com is the production environment. I will be demonstrating in the development environment, so you may see some things that are slightly different, but that's just some standard functionality information I'm just sharing there. Also, it is available on Android and iOS devices if you need to access it while you're in the field. So the desktop login looks pretty standard. Within the ministry, we do have SSO, so say, like you'll be using your MTO account to log in. Externally, you can change your password, although I do believe two-factor authentication is coming. So there may be an authenticator app as well. When you log in, you land on the Getting Started page. Getting Started page shows you things like your personal tasks up here. That's what that clipboard is. That shows you personal tasks. It shows you any mail messages or notifications that you have, so you can see recent tasks or recent messages. Again, this is the development here. You can see it's dev, and that's why I have so many open tasks, because we've been developing for the last year and a half. So there's a lot of things going on here. But you'll be able to sort of see a brief snapshot of what's going on when you log into the Getting Started page. the apps, everything within the CMS system is you're creating records within apps. So just think of like, if Kahua is a cell phone, then each of these are the applications that allow you to perform each of the different tasks. You will see some construction apps in here. That's okay. You just don't necessarily need to use them. Within the system, there's the tasks, as I mentioned. So that's my 56 here. So tasks here, you can see who it's from, what subject it is, which project it's related to, and what app it's related to. And you'll be able to follow through on those. Sometimes there's a due date, sometimes there's not. It depends on what the app task is. So tasks are different than messages. Messages is just like your email Outlook. You'll get a message and it sort of gives you some details, who it's from, who it's to, if anyone else was CC'd with a distribution list. Usually the subject will show you a record number. So EPA, I know that stands for Engineering Performance Appraisal. And then again, this is just for testing. So then we get a message and then you're able to link directly to the app. If you click that open in Kahua link. When you click on your personal logo up here, so mine's just the Ontario logo, but when you click on that, it will take you to your personal settings. In here, you're able to mess around or change your email settings. So any email or message notification that you receive can be forwarded. So you can copy your emails to your Outlook inbox. You can receive a copy instantly, or you can send summaries. So you can get weekly, daily, monthly, and then you can set a time and day so that you can get a summary and it tells you if you have any messages waiting on you. I'll go through more of the profiles, signatures, and out of office features when we do the demonstration. But out of office allows you to delegate your tasks to someone else during your absence. Now, think of something of note is you're only able to delegate tasks to people who would have the same access and or permissions as you. So project managers can assign them to project managers, project engineers can assign them to project managers can assign them to project engineers. However, you can say a project manager can assign it to the area manager. The area manager cannot assign it to the project manager. Project managers can't act as an area manager because they don't have that level of access. For example, within the system, it's sort of like a file folder structure. So we have the Ontario Ministry of Transportation domain, and all of our projects will be in the Transportation Infrastructure Management Division, so the TIMD folders, and then those 6 project folders in there are the various regions, and then that's how everything will be accessed. And I'll cover this in the demo. So now I'm going to jump over to Kahua. So like I said, when I log in, I can see my getting started page. Just a few features. If you press Control and scroll on your mouse wheel, you can zoom in and out. And then you can also collapse this side menu to make your screen bigger. So I mentioned that there's apps. So as soon as you click apps, it'll show you your recent apps. So any apps that you've been using recently. However, if you want to see all apps, you can click the all apps and you can see them. You can also scroll them so that you can scroll through it like it's a standard start menu, or you can press the wide and then you can scroll side to side. It allows you to see all of the apps at once. However, if you're looking for an app and you don't necessarily see it, so right now if we're looking here, under the letter I, there is no invoice. However, if I wanted to type in invoice, I can just type it in and it will find the app for me. So then it shows me that invoice is actually under contract management. So it's in there. Now, under your profile, as I said, we want to go to, so that's my profile, my settings. So general settings, this is the message options where I can copy things to my email. I can get them immediately. I can get summaries. I can have a summary even if I have no new tasks, just so I know that I have no tasks waiting on me. Profile is just like your Outlook information card. So you can fill in your first name, middle names, last names, title, position, office location, social networks if you so choose. Signature, here we can upload a digital image of your signature, and you can create a signature block. So I could put James Flanders, and then if I was a PNG, I could put PNG. I'm not, so I'm not going to do that. I know that that's not okay. I'm just showing you that you can add to your signature. And then you create a 4-digit personal identification number or PIN. That way, when and if something comes up where you're asked to sign a document, you'd be able to enter, it'll ask you, it's basically just a password check, because your digital signature within the system counts as a legally binding signature. Okay, so out of office. Out of office, you can use the delegation feature. So delegate tasks during the period you're out of office. You set the calendar dates, which it gives you a calendar picker. And I can delegate to, and then this is a drop-down list. Now, this is a delegate to, this is a global list, as in I could type in James, and if I don't select the right James, so here we can see that because this is a demonstration environment, I've been creating myself as my fake contract. I could select the wrong James Flanders. We don't want to do that. You want to be double sure who you're delegating to. Also, you can notify the original originator. So if, say, Jamie was to send me a task, but I have delegated to Ryan, Jamie would receive a message that Ryan has been delegated the task by me because I am out of the office. Close of this. These are alerts or pop-ups. I have unsaved changes. That's okay. I don't want to change anything. So up here at the top, we can see that I've got this project number. So GWP, training demo contract. When we click that option, this takes us to our project finder. So as we can see here, as I mentioned before, everything's in the Ontario Ministry of Transportation domain. From there, we're in the Transportation Infrastructure Management division, and it's broken down to each of the regions. One of the things you can do is, I believe I've been working in West. So here's our training demo contract. To access your projects, you can click a star, and that will add it to your My Projects list. If we go back to Tim D for a second here, we can see that in Northeast region, there's 123 projects. So instead of scrolling through 123 projects to find it, you can do two things. You can search, so you can enter a contract number if you so chose, or like a GWP number. And it'll take a second here to search. But here we can see, it pulls up anything with that contract number in the name. So I'm able to search that way, or we can go back, and most of the time you can go to My Projects. So here we can see these have all been favorited. They've all been starred, and here we can see my training demo contract. Also, recent projects will allow you to go to whichever one you've been most recently in. And that's another fast way to get there. For general functionality, I'm going to open the Milestones app because we're just going to create a new one. Just quickly showing you how, the new, many buttons. I'm gonna slow down, sorry. So when you hit new, it allows you to create a new record. When you first arrive, you can see here, we've got the list of records that pre-exist. Down here, I called them the stack of pancakes, the hot dogs, and the piece of paper with lines. So each of these shows you a different variation of the same thing for visual reference. The stack of pancakes brings you to the list of records. The hot dog will give you your list of records and any open records. So when I hit new, I can now see my new record on the side while I can still see the main list. Or if you click on the piece of paper with lines, you can just see the record you're working in, that specific record. Most records auto number, but you can change the number if you so choose. Like this could be milestone number 157 or 157. The description is a demo. And the notes, we can fill in as many characters as you want. I believe you can put in a very significant amount of them. I can't remember the exact number count, but I'm pretty sure it's fairly large. And then I can put in dates. So again, this is milestones. We're going to get more into it. But for selecting things, most of the times, if there's dates, there's a calendar picker. If it says predecessors, it's a drop-down list. So I can say that, there's a predecessor of that task has to be completed, and then successors. When you get to tables, one of the things you want to do is you can click, it may not seem intuitive at first, but the blue words, so like upload, add, codoc, edit. Sometimes there's a file. I'm not actually going to upload, so I'm going to cancel. Sometimes it just says insert, and you'll see that with some of our records, and you have to press insert in order to add a line, and then you're able to work within those lines. So that's some of the navigation. Also up here, so you can press that square and that'll go full screen. It opens it up to the full screen, which again covers everything on the menu bars and everything, so you can minimize that as well. Also, if I had hit multiple twice, it allows you to see if this number was let me actually just go back here and I'll hit new again. And now we can see that I've got 2 records here. Both of them are 4 because I haven't saved either one. So save and close. But we can select this and we can move back to the other one. Now, the other thing is we hit save and close. It will save that record as it exists and close it. So I can still look at it though, because it's still open. In order to actually just close a record so that it's off of the screen, you have to press the little X up here. That's one of the ways you can close a record. So for that, I'm going to now jump back to our presentation. And if there's any questions, perfect. We've already got some questions. Okay, so for GWP numbers, I can go back to the system. GWP numbers will be covered in contract setup, but basically that information, let's see here, pop up for Teams there blocking it, but there's this little information icon here beside the name, and within here, that's your project details. So in here will be where you can find your information related to the project number, the partition type, the contract number, other things like that. So all of those details will be set up by the ESTs. And again, I'm going to go through that when we get there. Okay. So again, I'm going to go through some user management. This is sort of just giving you some heads up. Most of this will be covered by the engineering service technicians. However, it's still a little bit to know because this will cover how you're going to get an invite and how you can be added to the system. So that's important information. Okay. So just a brief roles and responsibilities as we're getting into user management. So the engineering service technicians, sort of some of their responsibilities are contract creation, invoice payments, document checks, inter-system actions. So anything between RACs, e-approvals, PPS, the payment system. Project manager, project engineer, or retainer administrator. You'll hear me say PMPE or PMPERA, which is just a reference to the 3 sort of prime users. They're the ones who will be managing within the system. External engineering consultant, PMs, are the service providers, and they cover, they will function within invoices and submittals, meeting minutes and change requests and that kind of thing. There's also a designer role available for the external consultant where they can have a little bit less access to the system. And then the other levels above that, so the area manager, the head of the functional office, the manager of engineering is where our DOFMA, so DOFMA is Delegation of Financial Management Authority, and then others aligned tasks. So onboarding of users, like we said, the engineering service technicians will be the caretakers of the users within the contacts. Please note that's contact, not contract. The users app and groups. So external service providers will need to identify who their users will be for each contract and who will be their main domain coordinator. The domain coordinator is often the very first person who registers for the system. So if we send out 5, because you've given us a list of 5 names, if we send out 5 people, then those 5 people, whoever accepts it first, if it's the designer instead of the project manager, that designer becomes the domain coordinator. So whoever accepts it first has to be the person who you would like to be your company domain coordinator. By default, service providers will have 5 users per contract. We are keeping an eye on licenses and users as it's a ministry paid for thing. Internal staff, we will onboard as needed again, and so added at the regional level as opposed to the project levels. By adding at the regional level, then you're able to access all projects so that you can be somebody's delegation of authority if necessary. Our CMS team will assist with initial onboarding for all new contracts and to assist the regions in the process just as we are getting started, as we understand it is a new system. So this is some of the stuff for the engineering service technicians, and there will be a very specific engineering service technician training session. So not everyone will have to take part in this, but so basically we navigate to the contacts app. We create a new contact. If the contact doesn't exist, so this person was not found, we basically can fill in their first name and their company and click OK, and that will save them as a contact. Once a user is a contact, we move into the user app. Once they are Once we are in the user app, we're able to select the user, and we can send them an invitation to join the system. And this is where, now this is the information that everyone else sort of needs to pay attention to. So when you receive a notification email, it might look something like this. Some of the colors might be slightly different as the system has been updated a little bit, but you will receive an invitation that basically says you're invited and get started. So the first thing you want to do is click Get Started. You'll be redirected to an email, sort of like a web page with some email information. You want to fill in your name, your last name, your time zone. You want to create a password if you need a password, and you want to confirm your company name, and then you want to accept the terms of the service agreement and complete. Once you've done that, it'll create your account for you. So you'll get a account setup page, and sort of you don't have to do anything. You can just let it progress. And once your account is created, you'll see a little Launch Kahua button pop up, and then you'll be able to click that, and it'll bring us back to sort of that Launching Kahua page, which is the launch.kahua.com. And so then here you can launch in browser or download for Windows and or Mac. Once you've logged in, an email, confirmation email, will be sent to the system administrator. So us on the CMS team will receive these emails, and then we'll be able to track if you've been accepted into the system and if you're active, and we can support you in your accessing of the system. Again, so the next section here, this is again more for engineering service technicians, but just explaining a few things. Earlier, I had talked about how you can only delegate to somebody who has the same level of permissions as you. Permissions are controlled through groups. So if you look closely here, we've got area manager, the contract services inspector, like so some of these are contract, but some of these are external. So we have regional access, manager access, lead operations engineer access. So the Groups app allows you to assign users to groups, and in groups, it determines which permissions that users have. You can see the general members and permissions. Also, you can see here that external users are assigned at the project level. So instead of being assigned into an Ontario Ministry of Transportation or a region, external users are assigned to specific projects, and that way you can see the projects. Within a project, there's a roster. Just think starting roster of a baseball team or a hockey team, and sort of these are the primary contacts. That's not to say that other people cannot assist them and work within those projects. It's just they're the ones who are assigned, and it's a good way to keep track of who will be on the roster. And again, so this is just one of our CST or EST's applications, and that's where they will be covering things. Okay. Any questions here coming in that I can't answer? So I do see that new work for retainers. Yes, retainers. The Form A, Form B, Form C, Form D, those will all still be handled through RACs. Once a retainer is created, basically an individual work order will be created within the system under the retainer. The overall retainer will be in CMS. And then the retainers are, we can create work orders directly within the system so that any items that are being billed against that retainer would be billed against that work order. And then overall, we can track the financial values within CMS, and, multiple work orders can be paid at various times. Okay, I think we've sort of handled the other questions there. Thank you, Ryan and Jamie, for covering some of those. So setting up an engineering assignment. So all assignments in CMS must have a project, a contract, and a work breakdown structure to be successfully set up. A project setup, so that's the base info and project roster. So that's where we'd enter that information. That's sort of that screenshot I'd shown that shows, project number, contract number, description, etc. Work breakdown structure, it sort of establishes the financial structure of the contract. And then contract setup, so contract dates and contract items. Once the contract is set up, that's where we determined for if it's a lump sum contract, you know, sort of the specialties that our items are being billed against or being referenced against versus a rate table. So rate tables are used for retainers because retainers have rate tables that allow them to bill against select items with certain dollar values. So some of the information, regular assignments will come in through racks. There's a data broker tool, which sort of does some of the integration. Retainer assignments do require manual setup because of the way that they are, the way they work within the system. So project creation, again, this is the ESTs, but you go to the project finder, which is that same place here. And within there, we can press new. And then this is where I was talking about. This is, once it's created, you can navigate to the project, and then you can come into this section and you can edit it. So, pardon me, by selecting that little circle with the eye around it up here at the top. And so once you edit it, you can change things, like you can even change the image within it, but you can enter in your information. So project number, partition type is project, record type is project. It's demo contract service provider. Service provider is a drop-down selecting list. So this is why it matters that you have a domain coordinator, because the domain coordinator sets the company name or the service provider name, things like that. And then there's other details within this, but we can scroll through it really quickly with a quick review. So activities. So this is for the work breakdown creation. So WBS is the work breakdown. So you navigate to the work breakdown. You're going to add one of the options, though, is you can import and export an Excel list of work breakdown types. And then, you know, that way you can bill against project management services, shared services, liaison services, highway planning services, other types of services as required by the RFP or RFQ. And so once the project is established and the work breakdown is established, then we create the contract. So within the contract, this is where we get to, we'd select new. And so within a contract, this is where, you know, you fill in the status, who the parties are, some dates and workflow information about it, what the scope of the contract is, and then the items. So if it's a lump sum contract, it's items. If it's a retainer contract, it would be the rate table. And that's where we establish the information related to that. So now we will jump into our demo for a project. So as we sort of said, we start with the project. I'm just going to sort of review this list here, or review the project information here. So we've got project number, service provider, contract number can be where the actual contract number is, location and description, area, region. The type is engineering assignments, rank, prime. That only matters when we're doing retainer assignments, where there's a secondary and tertiary and beyond for the retainer assignments. Then we've got contract award dates and planned end dates. Indigenous procurement, if there's indigenous participation. Reference contracts is not that important at this stage, but reference contracts say once a design project is fully and completely done and the construction contract is being set up, we might be able to reference them and link them together that way, so that there is that ability to share information. For the sake of today's demonstration, within our roster, I am acting in every role. It just makes it easier for the demonstration purposes. So that's our project, and that creates the shell within we're working in. So then we want to look at our work breakdown right now. So one of the things we can do is we can export this document in Excel, which is okay, perfect. Oh, look, I've already got one here, so I'm just gonna cancel that because I've already got it. But then that folder, the work breakdown structure. So this is what a work breakdown structure would look like. And when creating it, or when we're going to import it, basically we take the code and agreement number and we copy it down and we put numbers and we copy them down. But at this point, we can add any other fields or categories that would be billed against, and they can be filled in there. So then I would import it in, and once imported, I can even import that same document. Training, work breakdown structure, open. Okay, I close it because it's open. Close it. Okay, open. And basically it reviews it. Okay, and then once it reviews it, it'll scan it. And it's initializing, well, it doesn't scan. So it shows that it understands that there are 19 rows. And it saved 19 items, which is okay, because as we can see here, the top one is always the agreement number, and then every item or every code under it is a billable category. So we're going to refresh, and it's going to be the same list because that's what it was. So once we have our work breakdown created, it's time to look at our contracts. So we go to contract management, create a new contract, and it specifically wants to know which project it is. Okay, so that's the one. So next. Okay, so, oh no, I'm in invoices, that's why. Never mind, ignore that. So new contract. So here I'm able to create a new contract. So I could just call this one 3000-24-0002. The date, which is a picker, I can put today's date, contract title. This is demo contract number 2. And this is where we select whether it's a lump sum or a retainer. So I'm going to keep it lump sum. And then distribution list, I'm going to CC Ryan. Status is just a system thing, and we don't need to worry about it. Parties, so owner contact, this is a contract with the ministry. So I'm going to put, again, myself, just for the sake of testing. Service provider contract. It's going to be myself. And so earlier I'd mentioned, there's an insert. So this is where we would insert so initiation checklist is just, are there any steps or anything that you would need to do before creating the contract? So if you want to have, a check of which fields or categories they want to bill against, if you want to have a check for a startup meeting or that kind of thing, you could fill those categories in. The dates, again, these are all workflow or calendar pickers. So you can select a date. You can fill in if there's any addenda or scope. So items, this is where we want a lump sum contract. So I'm going to be inserting lump sum, and I want to insert 5 categories or however many I would put in my work breakdown. But now I'm able to click item code, and I can see here for my work breakdown. By creating the work breakdown, I can then see that I can bill against highway engineering, archaeology, engineering survey, traffic protection, and borehole or pavement boreholes. So then I'm able to put those in. Their entry type is lump sum, but we can still select a unit of measure. So it could be, what is the hourly rate, or what is the day rate, or it can just be lump sum rates, depending on how we wish to calculate it. And then what we do is you just put in your total value. So 100,000. Come on now. 150, 2,000, 20. The other thing is every time you see one of these boxes with an arrow, you can select that, which will open it up into a bigger screen and sort of allows you to see the information that you're putting in at a grander scale. And then even here within this section, you can select the magnifying glass on the piece of paper, and it allows you to look at a little more detail. So this is, again, could just be lump sum. And you can cycle through the different records or the different ones. So this is going to be lump sum, lump sum. Oh, perfect. So we're done there. Right now, we can see it has no dollar value because I have to save it. So I'd save it. and it calculated that it's a $327,000 project based on the information that I put in. So there's our project. It's in draft right now. Anyways, so that's for creating a project, or creating a project, a work breakdown structure, and a contract. Does anyone have any questions about that, or is there any questions that we haven't answered? Looks like we are up to date. Okay. I'm just going to keep trucking along then. So meetings, again, it's a standard GUI feature. We've modified it slightly, but it's still a fairly out of the box functionality, and I will demonstrate how that works. So within meeting minutes, we've got details, so you can fill in information like agenda items and or attendees. So you can fill in attendees. Within the meetings application, there's also meeting items, so you can create new items and call them new business, or create items and call them old business. And within those items, you're able to create something called an action item, which creates a task that you can designate or delegate or assign to someone specific. So now I will do the demo. So let's jump over to Kahoot again. And we're looking at meeting minutes. So we are going to create a new meeting minute. Subject is demo number 2. Our contract type is an engineering contract, and this creates the list. So we can see here, we've got some lists of meetings. So we're going to call this 30 design review team meeting, just for the sake of a meeting title. So select time, we can use so 10 o'clock a.m. calendar picker, end time will be 11. It just automatically breaks down to end time. Okay, so then location, if you wanted to make it a Teams meeting, you could say that it's Teams, and then to add a link. So you can basically go to, I'm just going to pull up Teams, 1 second here. I'm just copying the calendar link for this meeting, copy link. So then basically you can add an external link. So this is Teams URL, and then you can paste it in so we can see that. Okay, and then it creates a Teams URL link for anyone who's going to attend the meeting. The meeting note sections, this is where you could fill in your agenda just free for the meeting. So instead of having the meeting, like I've got this meeting scheduled for tomorrow, so then I can fill in my agenda section, just typing it out as much as I want, just like a Word document. And then we can distribute that to anyone who may be in attendance. The other thing is, once we know who's going to attend, we can go to the attendance list and we can insert some new contacts. So let's say I want to insert 3 contacts, I can hit insert. So contact 1 will be Jamie. Contact 2 will be Ryan. Contact 3 will be Mark. But Mark is going to be optional. And then meeting items, if there are any media items, I know I can basically say, this is payment, this is work, and we could say that these 2 are old business, and we want we want that information by tomorrow's meeting, and we want it by tomorrow's meeting. And these are, so payment is related to administrative, and work, let's say it's related to coordination. Let's see. So then we can save and close. So right now the meeting is scheduled. We can see that it's active. It's not yet happened. So then we can say, okay, the meeting has happened. We want to edit it. So now we can go into the details, and we can sort of say, if you wanted to upload meeting minutes that were taken in a Word document, you're able to then upload a Word document. I'm just going to throw in the work breakdown structure because it's a file. Basically, that's our meeting minutes notes. Okay. And then I can go through my attendees, and I can say attendance. Jamie was absent, Ryan was present, and Mark was present. Then I can go to meeting items and I can say that there was another thing that came up. So this was something that came up during the meeting, something new. And it was, starting tomorrow, and it's, something we need to know by Friday. It's new business and it's related to deficiency. I can then also expand upon that new business item after the meeting, and I could sort of fill in, could fill in that information and then say what it was specifically related to. And then here we can create an action item. So an action item, I can assign it to somebody specific. So this is something new, and I'm going to assign it to Jamie because he didn't come to the meeting. So that's why he's getting assigned. And I'm going to, again, I expand it so that you can see a little more. So this is from the meeting minute item, something new. Jamie's been assigned, and I'm creating a task. This is what I want him to do, the status. This is what it's not started. He can fill that in or update it when he receives the task, and the priority I can set as well. But I can tell him that we need it by Friday, and he can fill in this information and attach things as it goes. So basically, I'm creating a task for him to complete something for me for this meeting minutes before I'll distribute them. So then I can hit save and close. And now that I've saved and closed, I can go to the action items and I can see that there's an action item waiting on Jamie. So and then once Jamie completes it, I'm happy. I can then mark it as complete. And at this point, all actions are completed. All meeting items have been reviewed. Attendees have been marked. Documents have been uploaded. And then you can close and distribute. And closing and distribute, it would distribute it to your attendees or anyone in your distribution list if they were non-attendees. I did see asking about copying. So there is a copy button, which then this allows you to create, we'll call this demo number 3. Save and close. Okay, it does not allow a duplicate. Okay, that's why. Okay. Copy. This is something to note, that when we copy, it doesn't allow me to change the number, and that's why it's not letting me duplicate. However, so that won't let me do that. But if you know that a meeting will be repeating, that was actually something I didn't go into, is that you're able to I will actually, hang on a second. We are going to look at an older one, and we want to copy, save and close. Yeah, okay. This is just an issue with the demo dev environment. In the actual live version, you're able to edit those numbers and keep going with copying a meeting and or scheduling a meeting to repeat. Those are options available within the system. Just not right now in our development environment. So questions? I think you guys have been doing a good job here at answering them for me. Thank you, Jamie and Ryan. So I will keep trucking. Okay, so we're now going to look at the file manager. It's a place to store file projects, and there are permissions. So you can have security and subfolder permissions related to certain objects or items that are stored within the CMS applications. So it just works like a file tree of a standard Microsoft Office or Microsoft Internet, like Microsoft Explorer within a computer. So you have your file tree. The folder template was developed from all our team of people who helped us develop the CMS applications. We standardized, or we've taken multiple regions file folder standard and sort of created a provincial hybrid as part of, again, sort of that idea of the auditability related to the Auditor General's report. However, you're still able to customize the folders and create new folders as needed. It's sort of, yeah, just like creating a file folder within Windows. So now we will jump to the demo and then we will go to questions. So here we are. So we want to look at File Manager, so we go Apps and File Manager. So again, File Manager works just like file setup, and there are project info, so you can have any of the standard information, contract submissions. This is where things can be copied if they're different or if they're not being submitted directly through the Submittals app, which is the next thing we're going to look at. And some things are sort of pre-system, so consultant file, as in acquisition and stuff. And there are ways to permission these folders as for who has access to them. So we can look at permissions of a file. And yeah, just bog down a little there. Anyway, so yeah, there's permissions within the file, and you're able to sort of see who has access to the folder and who does not. Okay, so that's File Manager. Next, we will be getting into submittals. So I'll just click that there, and we will jump back to our PowerPoint. Any questions about File Manager? And I know I'm moving at a very rapid pace. However, it's semi-intentional. There's a lot of material to cover. And again, we will be breaking these down into more manageable sessions for in the futures. Okay, so let's jump into submittals. So submittals, it's sort of the key functionality. It's the main content of our system. It's the main intention. This is where anything coming from the service provider will be submitted to the project manager, project engineer, or retainer administrator. This is where items will be submitted. And if this is if a work order, let's say we have a company creating boreholes of a certain area, and that information needs to be submitted for a specific project, the way it's set up is that the service provider who's creating the boreholes are able to submit just that one item. That's all they can see in the contract. They won't be able to see any contract details or anything. They're able to be meant to be submitting on the main project who the destination information is for. So now we'll talk about submittal packages versus submittal items. So submittal packages are sort of developed between the MTO and the service provider. It basically reflects what's in the contract. So within the RFP or the RFQ, it's meant very specifically to manage all of the deliverables. So the packages, and sort of define some of the information. So basically a package identifies who's going to coordinate for that package, who is going to be submitting that package, when certain things are scheduled or due, and then the reviewers. Our reviewers are set up in the package so that anything that's submitted within that package go to the same reviewers instead of having to identify reviewers every time we do a submittal. It's just going to them specifically. And we will go through some examples of this when we get into the system demonstration. But submittal items are these exact specific items. So basically the item is created, service provider submits it, it gets reviewed by the PM just to make sure that it has all of the components that they're looking for, and then it would go to reviewers. So reviewers could be specialty offices, so somebody from bridge office, somebody from structural office, somebody from geotech office. Once everybody's reviewed it, then a response is issued to the service provider, and it can either be revised and resubmitted, or it will be reviewed. And that's the end of that. So a submittal package, creating submittal packages. Again, we navigate to the submittal application, and we can fill in a short title and add a longer description, and selecting a submittal coordinator from the dropdown. Again, dropdowns are universal, so you can select almost anyone. Be very careful when selecting a submittal coordinator and submitter. So within the package, you want to identify who is going to review the package. So we can go to the reviewers section where we can select insert, select our however many users we need. And at this point, you can either it's not selected here, but there's something called sequential review, as in, if we look at our list here, Art needs to review it before James, who needs to review it before James, who would need to review it before Oliveira, or non-sequential, which means all 4 reviewers can review at the exact same time and fill in comments and provide feedback at the exact same time without having to wait for the person before them. And that's more information for the package. Once the package is created, then we go into the items themselves. So basically you can insert them from the submittal package, or you can go to the submittal items and create items and link them to packages. But basically you're breaking it down into what each individual item will be within that package. And they're sort of auto-linked here. The numbers are linked as well. So again, you'll see more of this in the demonstration. So there's a scheduled date, which is when we hope to receive it, and then there's a submitted date and a reviewed date. There are information, and some of it will be populated as the process goes through. So again, once an item is created, the item itself has, so it's the new submittal. It has a title, a brief description, and then it links to which package it's coming through. By linking to the package, it then is able to confirm the details of who's going to review it, what item it is, and how it's related. So now for submittal item submissions. So this is where a service provider who's ready to submit something, all submittals appear with the default status of requested. So a service provider is able to navigate to the app and select a requested submission. And then they go to the attachment section. So they go down to the attachments. They upload all of the items related to that submittal. They have to click the checkbox to say all required documents have been attached. That's sort of a QC check to say, yep, I've double checked. All of these are the right items. And then they submit. So there's a quality assurance. This is again where the PM, PE, whoever, or the or RA, so the retainer administrator, sort of reviews. Okay, did we get the right items? Because they can even bothering their functional office reviewers. So basically, then once they're happy with it, they're able to then see that who their reviewers are, and then they can initiate review. Once the reviewers have reviewed, the options for the submittal coordinator will become things like review. So the responses to the service provider are reviewed as noted, meaning that there's notes and or revisions potentially required, or rejected. And rejected requires a new submission. So now we will get into the submittals demo. So submittal packages, we've navigated to package submittals, which is the application. So submittal packages, we're going to create a new one. So this is number 3. I'm just leaving my numbering the same. We're going to call this bridge submissions. And the description will be structural submissions. So submittal coordinator will be myself. The submitter will be myself, just for the sake of the demonstration. But this is where, so submittal coordinator is usually again, it's your project manager. It's whoever wants to sort of see things as they come in. Or if I'm creating something that's specifically for a retainer, say I have a geotech rep and I know that so I could have the geotech rep be the submittal coordinator for whatever's coming in from their submitter, and that submitter would be the service provider of the geotech retainer item. And then distribution list, I'm going to send it to Jamie. Again, status is just sort of some system information, not that important to fill out right now. I'm going to insert some reviewers. So anything that comes from the service provider, I'm going to want Ryan, who's my structural reviewer, to check it out. And then sorry. Okay, so then I have to save the package before I can insert items. So right now I'm just going to save it. So once the package is created, I can edit it. And we can go down to our items. And now I'm able to enter items. So I'm going to enter in 4 items. So the first item I'm going to want is say a tender document related to the bridge design. I'm going to want drawings related to the design. I'm going to want a report, and I'm going to want cue sheets. These are just examples. You can fill in whatever you need. And I want them delivered by Friday, and then the next thing I want another week later, the next thing a week later, and the next thing a week later. So that I can save and close. Okay, so now I'm going to close that and refresh this list. And we can see here that Bridge Submissions has 4 total submittals, but nothing has been submitted. So now we can go over to our submittal items. And here we can see these are some other ones that are done. So the service provider would see that submittal package 3, which we know is the bridge submission. So submittal package 3. Submittal package 3 has 4 items that are requested. So I go into the tender doc. And now I edit the document. So this is the service provider who would go into the submittal items and they want to edit. So they can see who the reviewers will be, but they need to upload their documents. So they're going to upload this Excel document, which is the same one I've been using. Okay, this is document. Any comments they want to put in, we'll allow them to see it. And then we are also going to upload CMS. And here we're going to upload just a random picture. It's a picture of a computer. Perfect. Upload a picture. So we'll say this is, site conditions. Okay. So one of the questions that often comes up at this point, and I'm just going to share it, is that I believe the file size is 2 gigs, but that's per file. It's not necessarily per record. So then I can say, those are the 2 things that I required for this submission. So all required documents have been attached, and then I'm going to submit. So now I can see that this document is in review. And if we wait just a moment, there should be a task that comes in. Here it is. So new task notification. I have received a new task from the service provider. They have submitted an item. So in tasks, you can actually select it. So here we can see I'm still in tasks, but it'll show me that what's required of me at the next step. Like it can allow me to complete the task directly from the task. So within here, I want to do, I know I've already got my reviewers. I know who they're going to be. There's a rating component, which ties into the performance appraisal. So we'll get into that in a bit. But I can see that, okay, these 2 documents are here and I'm happy with that. So I'm going to initiate the review. And right now I should get a task and Ryan will get a task. But what I'm going to do is going to go to project tasks, just as a demonstration of project tasks. So project tasks, I can see that I'm waiting on Ryan to do this, but I know Ryan's out of office, but he didn't forward or use his out of office to forward that task. So I'm going to delegate Ryan's review to myself, just again, for the demonstration purposes, and we can notify. And we submit that. Okay, and that's done. So now we can see that I have 2 submittal item review tasks for myself. So I'm going to go back to our submittal items and I'm going to say, I know this one is the one that I'm reviewing. So basically I can now, I'll go through the task because it doesn't seem to want to let me comment there. So I'll go to the first one. And I'm going to put in my comment here. Things look good. And if I, at this point, wanted to upload a document, just to sort of say my comments are uploaded into this document, so I can also then just attach a document. So we'll say that's a Word document here. My comments. So these are James F. comments. I can do that. Similarly, with things like JPEGs or PDFs or even drawings, I can select it here, select the item, and I can go into markup mode. Markup will download the file and render it. And I am able to, put in a little text box. Oh, come on now. And I can basically say, this needs to be a different PSS or whatever. Save and close. And I can change the color. I can increase the size. Let's make it green. And make the box blue. And make it a very thick box. So there we go. So I'm able to, once I hit save on this, the next reviewer will be able to see my markup on that image. So we're able to mark up images that way as well. And it's not just images, but other documents as well. PDFs work. So there, I've put in my comment and I'm going to say submit. Now I still have this one here, which, yeah, okay. So because I'm already on the list, it won't let me comment for Ryan, but I can hit submit. This is just a glitch because I'm sending it to myself on Ryan's behalf. So now I would go back to our submittals. And now I can see, okay, so we'll pretend Ryan had commented because that's, again, it just didn't like that I had, yeah, there it is. And so I'm able to issue a rating. So I can say that it's satisfactory or needs improvement. I could say it needs improvement, even though he says it looks good. And then I can say it's reviewed as noted. So reviewed as noted means that the service provider is able to resubmit. So I can click on reviewed as noted submissions and I can revise. Whereas if we look down here at some of these ones which are marked as reviewed, once it's reviewed, it's done. There's nothing else to be done with that record. It's just, it can't be resubmitted, it's done. So I can go back to my reviewed as noted document here and I'm going to revise. I'm going to edit the record. To go to the attachment sections, upload just a single document, open. Okay, it's there. Submit. I'm just doing this rapidly for the demonstration purposes. So now it would be in the QC check, which will take a moment. So let me close it. And so here I can, okay, there's the new task. I can say, okay, but I know Ryan's out of office, so I'm going to take him out of there and I'm going to initiate review again. And then I close it and allow it to give it a moment. So here I'm reviewing it again. Much better. And there, so it's been reviewed, submit. Okay, and then so it's been reviewed by my specialty reviewers, which can even be the project manager. That's where the project manager can even put in their comments. And so this time I'm going to say it's much better. So now commendable instead of a not satisfactory or needs improvement. And so I can say that this item has been reviewed. And once it's reviewed, it's done. It's marked as reviewed. And if we go back to our list of submittal packages, we can see that one of the bridge submissions has been completed. And so it's 25% complete. So that was a really quick run through of submittals. And we will do a much more detailed and slower version of submittals in the future. Did we, I think we've been answering every question as they've been coming up in the chat. So thank you again for that, Jamie and Ryan. Although I will say now, I think it's over to you, Ryan, for change management. Oh, hang on. Corey, by rating submissions along the way, will this automatically pull through the final? Yes. Rating as you go will tie into the engineering performance appraisal, and we will cover that when we get to the engineering performance appraisal. So There you go. Okay. And yeah, if I jump back to here, we're on to change management. So I'm going to hand it over to Ryan for change management, and then I'll be back for the section after.
Alrighty, thank you, James. I'm just going to steal the screen here. Start off with some change management. So all changes to engineering contracts are recorded and approved using the CMS change management suite of applications. So it starts with initiation. We call it change initiation. Well, actually, it starts in change management, which is a shell. Changes can come either internally or externally. So they can come through an internally initiated change. So we realize there's a change order or a need for a change order. We fire one up and then we issue it to the service provider. Or externally, it can come through a change request. If the service provider submits a change request to us, that change request can go through DOFMA and become a change management itself. So there's two ways for internally or for initiating a change order. And once it's initiated, it goes to the initiation stage. Here's where you're going to get, this is where you build your change order. So you've got your initiation phase, you're building your change order, you've got your basis of payments, your DOFMA is collected on the initiation. You fill out your scope of work, all your attachments, your values you put in there, all that good stuff. You'll see here we've got 4 bases of payments, understanding that there's only 2 bases of payments in engineering. Basically, one is for engineering and one is for contract administration. But for the purpose of CMS, we had to separate the 2 bases of payments so we can do either a new lump sum payment or adjust an existing lump sum payment. And then likewise for C&D, we can add a new item with a quantity, or we can adjust an existing item with quantities. Also in the change order, CMS is categories. So this came out of the Auditor General's report as well, recommending that we better categorize our changes across the board. So we've got these categories here that are mandatory in CMS now, as well as a comment. So when you're doing a change order, you select a category and then provide a comment against it as to the nature of the change order, why it's that category, what's going on. And that serves us in our reporting later on. If we want to pull a report, we can pull a report of a bunch of change orders and notice, oh, there's been a lot of found conditions investigation type change orders. Maybe we need to look at that. Once the initiation is approved, so you've put in your basis of payments, you've got your values there, you've circulated it for DOFMA approval, you've gotten approval for that, then you can create your change order. So out of the initiation comes the change order. Change order is created, it's issued to the service provider. The service provider in turn provides an estimate, and then the price agreement is finalized from there. So this is in the change order grid. You can see the service providers are highlighted here and selected from a drop-down menu right at the top. The distribution list here, I think James has covered it before, but it's like a carbon copy or an FYI. So you can add whoever you want there, maybe your manager or something like that. They'll receive notifications as to the workflow changes of this change order as well. And then here are the various grids that open up when you select the basis of payment. So we can only fit 3 on the screen here, but it's showing A and B and then C. You can see A and B has financial inputs. So because they're lump sum items, you're either creating a new lump sum item with a financial value or adjusting the financial value of an existing item. And then for C and D, which we can't fit, you're adjusting the quantity. So you're either creating a new item with a new quantity or adjusting an existing item with an existing quantity, or with an adjusted quantity, sorry. This is just more example of the quantity being adjusted here at the top. This is payment D at the bottom, so you're adjusting the existing item. Issue change order button. So this is what you're going to click once everything's ready to go. You issue your change order to the service provider. You can see at the top here, the 4,800 and 14,800. That's how much DOFMA is approved for this change order. When you create a change order out of initiation, you're going to see it wipe its values, and you'll see this in the demo I'll show you. But you're going to have your values populated, but then when you issue the change order, they reset to 0 because the change order is going to go to the service provider, and you don't want your estimate to go to the service provider along with it. So it resets to 0 and allows the service provider to input their estimate, basically overwriting yours, but retaining yours in the background. So it's going to inherit some information from the change initiation as well in the general section. You can see it has the change management record, which is the shell that I was talking about. It's hyperlinked there, as well as the description of work, the basis of payments, and the DOFMA that was obtained on it. Oh, I'm going to go back. I don't want to talk about the buttons there at the bottom. So this is once the change order has gone to the service provider. Typically, they're going to fill in their estimate and submit it back, but they have a couple other buttons here too. They can save it for later or request revision. Request revision is like if you forgot something or it's a negotiation tool, they can send it back and say, hey, I thought we were going to do it for this much. I thought we talked about including this in the scope. They can only do it 3 times, so they can't just keep sending it back and forth and playing games. But those are the 3 main buttons there. Update values is just a diagnostic button that we use. So don't click that unless CMS team tells you to. Here's more basis of payments. So you can see in the top, the basis of payment has been overwritten by the service provider with $1,000, $1,000 there, and $100 at the bottom. So this is now the value of this change order. We can submit this estimate like that. You see 2 buttons here now. So this is when the change order comes back to the PMPERA. 2 buttons, either revise or issue price agreement. If you agree with the service provider's amount, you issue price agreement, or if it's the same as your amount, you can issue the price agreement. If it's different, you click revise and then correct whatever the value is to be the final price agreement amount. So we thought it was 4,800. They only put in 3,000. We could accept their 3,000 and issue the price agreement at that, or we could revise it, put it back up to 4,800 or anywhere in between. We could also increase it beyond 4,800, and then the initiate DOFMA button would pop up here, where you could go get more DOFMA on the increased value of the change order. So this is the final screen the service provider sees when the change order comes to them. Again, they have save at the bottom, request revision. So this is requesting a revision on the price agreement. Again, that's limited to three clicks. Once they accept, the change order is going to be done for them. It comes back to the PMPERA to be transacted, or they can accept undisputed amount. And the cheeky thing with these 2 buttons is they do the same thing. We use this in construction more so to keep the contractor from arguing about a price agreement and refusing to close the change order. It's more of a thought prompt for them to realize, oh, if there's an undisputed amount here, I need to go do a compensation request. I need to endeavor down dispute resolution path to get whatever my undisputed or my disputed amount is. But both of those buttons will accept the change order or the price agreement, sorry. Last step for the PMPERA is to just create the transaction. So there's going to be a task that comes. You click the view source record in the top and then create transaction. And it's going to put it onto the transactions list. The transactions list is kind of a list of all transactions that have occurred on the project, and it queues them for payment. So if it's on the transaction list, it's ready to go. It's going to show up on the invoice. Now let's do a quick demo. Okay. Go to our change management here. I can also search it in the top. You've got it here in recent apps, or I can go to all apps. Change management. You can see there's a few here from before. I'm just going to go and create a new one here. And call this training change order. Create the initiation. There's a quick screen that pops up. I click start processing. You'll see up here the tab goes from change management to initiation. Now I'm in the initiation tab. I've got some information to fill out here. There's our basis of payments. First, my service provider. So this is going to be the service provider to which you want the change order to go, typically the consultant PM. Distribution list is here. You can copy James on this one. Here's our change order categories. Remember, these are mandatory. So if I try and submit this, it's going to say change order type is required, description of work is required, and it'll say categories is required. Here's my list. Remember, clicking in here doesn't do anything either. You have to click over, highlight them here like that, then click select. Let's do policies, procedures. You can click more than one if you like as well. And then our comment here, legislative change maybe. Change order type, so you have change in the work, that's your typical change order. You also have $0 change order, which will follow the $0 change order workflow for DOFMA, so it's going to go to the area manager of engineering. This is our description of work. You can type in, you can type a lot there if you want. It goes for a couple hundred lines, I believe. Lots of room. So this is a lump sum contract, so these two basis of payments don't really apply. So I can either add a new one or adjust an existing one. So let's adjust an existing one here. You can see this pops open a grid below. And then as you select them, they appear and disappear. This is important too, when these little grids appear. If you want to add a line, it's the blue insert. Or you can say add 5 lines like that. It'll add 5, and then you can delete them if you like as well. I could also, if I want to, add a new item and adjust an existing one. So say this is going to be new legislated position. We can go negative $500 on archaeology, and we're going to spend that on this new legislative position just for fun. Click submit on that. Now you see I don't even have an option to create to create a change order. I have to do initiate DOFMA first. You can see the value right now is $1,000, but I don't have any DOFMA approval. This is what the DOFMA approval screen looks like. You can see the COAS here. You've got the description of work, and then signatures are going to populate below as it's approved. So I'm just going to go click approve. This is my PIN that's set up in the settings with my signature that's uploaded. And now I've got the create change order button. So I'm going to go create. You can see here too, I have approval. So this change order is actually a net zero change order, but it has absolute value. So it doesn't need to be the $0 change order type. It's still a change in the work because of the absolute value. Start processing that. So here I have my change order. You see here it's been erased below. Then if it shows up here, there we go. You see these fields have been reset to 0 because we're going to issue this to the service provider now. And I'm going to issue change order. Here you have your request revision and submit estimate. You see that update values button is gone now as well. I believe we're done with that. That was just a diagnostic tool we used for a little bit. Should remove that from the slide actually. So I can request revision and send it back. I won't do that for time's sake. It just sends it back to the previous step. But I do have an estimate to input here. So I believe we talked about $500. I'll just do 450. And I'll mistakenly do this as negative 600. One, two, three, four. So now we're at the price agreement stage. You can see that the price is different though. It's $50 more than what I thought and negative 150 then more than what I thought. So I'm going to revise this, put it back to my numbers. Oh, it's not letting me. Come on. It's taking a minute to load here. Okay, let's go with this one and then we'll show the DOFMA. So we've got to get more DOFMA because it's increased by $50. Oh, template's not loading. I think we're moving towards a crash here or a freeze. There, then I can issue the price agreement. So we got DOFMA on the larger amount, even though it's less. The service provider has their options here, request revision again, accept or accept undisputed amount. I'm just going to accept this. And then the one thing left to do is create the transaction. You got to remember you can't create it from this task. If I try, it's going to give me a warning message. Please click view source record, which is at the top here, right here. So I click that, I click create transaction, and then I just click save. You can see the value of it here. There's the new item and the deduction from the existing item. And I'll click save, and that's it. And then those are going to show up on the invoice. That's the change management section. James, back to you.
Gotta unmute. Sorry about that. So here we are, invoices. So service provider invoices will be entered into the CMS system, and that is why it's important to note the work breakdown and each of the categories that are billed against will be in there. So the way that the workflow here, sort of as it's created by the external service provider. It's submitted. The engineering service technicians will review them, basically review them for any, it's a quality assurance check just to ensure that the right information is there. So then they recommend it for the PMPRA for review. The PMPRA gets to approve the invoice for payment. And then the EST, again, sort of reviews that it's approved and they can process it. Processing it sort of involves initiating it in PPS. Once that's done, we can sort of populate some remittance section and the record is complete. So to cover some of that. So to create an invoice, you navigate to the invoices section, which is under the contract management. So select the right contract. The contract should only be, there should only ever be one contract within the system. The project we had created a second contract in, I've already gone and deleted that so you can see what that'll look like when we get there. Then we hit next. Some of the important information to do is fill in a to and from period or from and to period and any comments and other information. And we fill in basically bill against the items and then submit. So the EST gets to review it. It'll come in, they can sort of scroll through it, double check it for all the right information, make sure everything looks good. And then they can either provide additional information, so that will send it back to the service provider to finalize their update, or they can recommend it. And once it's recommended, it goes to the PMPRA and they have the ability to approve it. again, they can review it as well, just to make sure that all the information matches up with what they're expecting. And then it goes back to the EST. So then the EST is able to process it. And this sort of allows them to basically say, okay, this invoice is done and ready for PPS. And then they can initiate in PPS. And then after initiated in PPS is done, that's it. So I will jump here. We will jump back to the system. So these are from last week when we did the training last Wednesday. So I'm going to do some new ones. And again, so like I said, the contract is grayed out because there should only ever be one contract within a record. The one I created earlier, I've already deleted. So if we go back to our invoices, we can see that it's for the one record. Okay, so we're going to go from the 9th. That was the day after last week until today. So demo. Come on. Demo. Invoice reference number. These are information, like this is information that the service providers can fill in if necessary. PPS reference number will be filled in by the EST. Any notes, and again, the distribution list for anybody who you want to CC on the record. Vendor HST number, again, that's information that can be filled in. Okay, so then right now, we would scroll down to our items, and we can see here that we have, this contract has all 18 items in it. That's why the WBS had so many items in it. So we're going to expand this out so we can show all. And we're going to check. So last week I had billed against some of these items. That's why some of these quantities have already a previous amount. So basically what we can do is we go into each one. So we hit the little paper with the magnifying glass. So highway engineering. So this is the sort of project management. We're going to say that we're now up to 50%. And so that it calculates that, you know, previous work was 20%. Now it's adding another 30%. So then it calculates that dollar value. And then we can cycle through them. So that one was up to 50. This one was at 20. So let's put it up to 50. This one was at 10. So let's put it up to 25. Okay, so then this one's at 25. So let's put this one up to 75. And then say, because we actually did some bridge with our, so let's say at this point you want to bill 100% for 100% for bridge engineering. You're able to put in that it's 100% complete. And some of the other things, you don't have to bill against everything, just whatever you're choosing to bill against that month. So I'm now going to say that those are the 4 items I'm going to bill against. That I'm done. No claims or anything at this point. If there was change orders, they would be in here as an item that we could bill against as well. Comments and references. This is where you can upload a PDF version of a, let's say there was a documentation. I don't have, we'll just say that this is a PDF of an invoice. So I'm uploading, you know, this is the consultant invoice. Okay. And then, so there it's there. And I've got my things. So then I can save and close. So my invoice is now prepared and ready for submission. So it's showing as it's in draft. I can give it one last review, and, you know, any of the information or numbers that I wanted to fill in, I would have filled in. I can see that, you know, the original contract amount is for that much. I'm billing this much for this period with the HST and the total amount. And then I can see just defining those are the 4 things I'm billing against. Okay. And now I submit. So it's been submitted. I'm the EST, so I would receive, so it's, yeah, as you can see here, it's EST review. And so the EST can sort of review it. Does it have the right contract information? Does it have the right reference numbers? Does it have all the information that they need? The HST number? Okay, I've reviewed it. The EST is not necessarily going to review the quantities. They're just going to review that all of the you know, that it's a proper invoice as required. And then they're happy. So secure tab, this is where within the MGO, without the service provider seeing it, you can put in comments back and forth if you need to provide comment or provide a document or a reference something to the PMPE, you could fill it in there. But then we're basically going to recommend. So now, as you can see here under the stage, we are under the PMPERA review. So again, the PMPERA would sort of review it, and they could focus mainly on the items, saying, okay, so we're, if I wanted to say, take a look at the, maybe it was engineering a survey I hit instead of structural, but they want to look at this and say, oh, it's up to 75%. Okay. Previous work completed was 25%. Okay, that works for me. That makes sense. That based on what we've seen, that checks, that's good. And so then basically I can say, okay, I approve. So within these provide additional information or approve or reset to draft, really we always either want to provide additional information. We'll go back to the EST for the QA check, and then the EST at the QA check can send it back to the service provider at that beginning point, or resetting it to draft sends it all the way back to the service provider. So there could be a major issue with it and they would reset to draft. But at this point, I'm just going to approve. So now the record is showing status is approved, but the stage is EST review. So again, it's back to the EST. They're reviewing the approval, they're reviewing the dollars. So now they'd be able to process it. So they would take all the information required in here, the dollar values, everything else, and put it into PPS. And then when PPS comes back with, say, remittance numbers and other things, they would be able to take those numbers and go so they would edit, put in the PPS reference number, and then initiate in PPS, and that's it. The record is complete and paid. So it's been processed. So that's it for invoices. I don't see any new comments in the chat or questions, so I will keep trucking along here. The next section we're going to cover is the engineering performance appraisals. So we sort of already talked about getting to these. But yeah, so the way things are working is that we took the Excel documentation provided to us for performance appraisals and sort of recreated it within the system. So the PMPA would start the appraisal. We always navigate to the application. We hit new, fill in some of the general information. So subject, the manager. So the manager will be whoever is going to approve it. And then basically once you've got it all filled in, you would be able to, so yeah, this is creating a new record, filling in the information, and then here, so, we can proceed to specialty review. So we can sort of send it to, so it's the quality of deliverables. So if there's a structural submission and they want to include it within their review, that's how it would be included. And we proceed to specialty review. Once the specialty reviews are complete, then it's sent to the manager for approval. So the reviewer, when they receive their task, they're able to look at it. They can look at the comment section. They can fill in their comment section. Right now it has no rating, so they'd have to insert something into their table. Specifically, they're able to link to those submittal items. That's the whole point of doing the ratings as it goes, so that you're able to then say go back to those structural items that already have revisions or that already have ratings. And then what it will do is just like within the Excel documentation, you're able to sort of coordinate what each item is worth so that you could put weighting in this table. So you'd put in a weight, like if you have 4 items and one's worth 75, the other ones are worth 25 broken out, then it would sort of calculate that rating and score for you, just like the Excel table does now. And so then once the specialty review is done and they're all back and it's finalized the review number, you'd be able to send it to the manager. And so then the manager receives it and they're either able to approve it or send it back. So sending it back is, again, that sort of same standard more information button. And once the manager approves it, it goes to the service provider. So a service provider sees it, they can look through it, they can look at it, and they can request an appraisal review meeting. So once it's issued to the service provider, it's got that same 21-day countdown that everyone is used to. The 21-day countdown does not stop upon request appraisal review meeting, because that allows you to review it within that 21-day period with MTO, and MTO can the manager will be able to make minor tweaks and then reissue. The level 1 appeal button is exactly that. It's a level 1 appeal, and it stops the 21-day countdown, and then it goes back to the manager for the appeal or acknowledge. If it's acknowledged before the 21 days, nothing happens. If none of these are pressed within that 21-day countdown period when it's been issued, on day 22, the record is marked as acknowledged. So that's the same way it sort of exists now. You have 21 days to respond, and if you're outside that window, then you're outside that window. So this is the manager has received the appeal and or the service, appeal level 1. So they would be able to then modify it and then reissue to the service provider. The service provider, again, can acknowledge after 21 days or appeal. There's only a field level meeting at level 1. Level 2, it goes to the Secretary of Qualification Committee. So again, Secretary of Qualification Committee would receive it's a level 2 appeal. And at this point, they would issue a final decision, and their final decision documentation must be uploaded. So it would be included in there as well. So that's sort of the process as it comes to engineering performance appraisals. So now we'll do a demo. It'll be a very quick demo, so there will be a longer session dedicated just to the engineering performance appraisals. So we can jump to the system and EP for performance appraisals. So I'm going to create a new performance appraisal. This one here, we're going to call this structural. And the manager is going to be myself for the purposes of testing. Okay, so then highway 401, division, transportation infrastructure, appraisal level is an annual, interim, or final, application type, RFQ, appraisal categories. Just like Ryan showed, you can't just click here, you have to click the checkbox. So we'll call this one a highway engineering detailed design. It's not a joint venture. Okay, so here we can put in our weights of 20%, 20%, 20%, and 50%, which will make sense. I know that doesn't add up, but there's a reason for that. So we're going to expand this list. And so then we have to go into each section. So here we can select our ratings. So we can say that it was commendable, and then it gives us that same details that the Excel document has up to this point. And we can put in a comment. Good job. And then we can cycle through each of these. So rating satisfactory, great. Public stakeholder relations, just for the section here. Let's give this one 3, good. And then down here, so section 4, that's for the detailed design projects only. That's why I didn't put any rating there. So we're going to leave that one blank. And then here we can note that I'm not able to put in a score, but I can still put in a comment. So, because now is where we sort of look at our quality of deliverables. So we're going to insert one, our specialty. For this one, I'm just going to go with electrical because I have a fully completed electrical package in there. So we're going to call it 100% of the weight. And the reviewer will be myself. And I need this information today. It's rapid. So at this point, the PMPRA can actually go into that and they can insert the submittal packages, or they could wait for the reviewer to do it. I'm going to do it just for demonstration purposes. So you have to select the project you're in. So we are in demo. This is training demo contract, submittal package, electrical submissions. I'm going to insert 2 more. Demo, training demo, bridge package, demo, training demo, and our 30% design, or no, our bridge. So what it will do then is each of those will have a score. And then I can sort of say that, you know, this is 25, 25, and 50. This is going to be a very low rating just because these aren't filled in. I will jump to another contract so you can see a filled in one and see how it works out. Done. So that just filled in there. And then the occupational health and safety review, satisfactory. And so for now, we're going to save and close. So this is why I was showing that up ahead. So the weights must, it does that double check. So 20, this needs to be 40, not 50. The system will double check that all of the weights add up like they should. So now I can send the record for specialty review and proceed to specialty review. So as I sit here, I'm going to wait because I'm waiting on this electrical review. A task should come in and I will complete the task. There it is. So there's my specialty review task. So I can say, yep, was good. Oh, come on. There, it's fun. Yeah, getting that same slowdown that Ryan mentioned. It happens. So there, that's done. Then our specialty review. I can go back in and check, and I can see that the specialty review is complete. Status is complete. So now I would send to the manager. Manager sort of reviews the documentation, looks at everything. And right now I can't do anything because I had to wait for the task to come in. There's the task. So as the manager, I can approve. I guess I missed that one step. So once it's approved, the PMPRA is the one who issues to the service provider. And so now it's in a service provider review, and the service provider again can acknowledge, request appraisal, or appeal. So I'm just going to acknowledge for the sake of this example. And then I'm going to go and jump to a contract that has a really decent one in it with lots of items and records in it. Some testing. This is a good one. Good. Okay, so here, where's a good one? The rating of 4.8. So this is one here. We're able to look at it. So we could see here that they had good scores throughout, or the weight was good, the scores were good, and then it was linked to the ATMS. That wasn't one. Let's look at this one. So if we look here, yeah, so this one has both ATMS and bridge, where the weight of the ATMS was 75 and the bridge was 25. And then within those, we can see that they have these the packages linked. So we created a package that was project management, just to give them a rating for project management, planning, and scheduling. And so then each of these had their own weighting and their own weight and rating, resulting in a number, just like within the standard thing. And so all of these resulted in a 3.96 for the overall contract. Okay. Any questions there? I'm going to probably jump ahead because we only have about 9 minutes left. Okay. So Milestones app is the, like I sort of showed it as our quick demo earlier. So Milestones, again, it's just meant to be used for sort of anything that wants to be tracked, any key date or reporting information. And you can have predecessors and successors. I already did a quick demo on it, so I'm actually going to skip the demo. And now, I don't know if Jamie wants to take over, but I can talk about the fact that, so any support or anything you guys need when we get going, please send your emails to mtocms@ontario.ca. We have an inbox that is monitored daily, and we will respond anytime that there's an issue or something beyond our scope. we will elevate and escalate up to KUA and KPMG team to make sure that we get any issues addressed. Also, so the resources. So there's the MTO technical publications. We have user guides and tip sheets and weekly updates and any training presentations and things. Everything will be going into the technical publications. And then, unfortunately, for external staff, we don't have access to it. But internal staff, we do have a CMS training and resources SharePoint where the data is available to all MTO employees. So again, on the MTO technical publications, we are technical documents, and there is a CMS section in there where you can find specific CMS questions. Any questions at this point? If not, I'm going to hand it over to Jamie to run our poll.
All right, thanks, James. Yeah, let me share my screen. Meeting here. All right, so I'm going to try this poll, and it's only a few quick questions, so we really do value your feedback. So let me see if I can pop it up. Okay, so first question here is, I understand the benefits of the new contract management system, and you have the options to strongly agree, agree, disagree, or strongly disagree.
I think you still need to launch the poll, Jamie.
No, I do.
Yeah, just at the bottom there.
Launch instant poll.
There we go. Now I got it. Oh no, hang on. That's an instant poll. Yeah, no, we don't want the instant poll. Sorry.
Says it's in draft.
Yeah, ignore the instant poll.
Looks like we have some responses.
Oh, there's
already.
launch. Sorry, there's launch. Just needed to scroll down.
There we go.
All right. All right, so I'll move on to the next question. The training session met my expectations and increased my understanding of CMS functionality. Same options available. And the next one, I know where to get additional information and support when using the contract management system. Right. And then these ones are just kind of will create sort of like a word cloud, but it's just to get an idea of what topics from today you found were most beneficial to you in your role. So we talked about invoices, general functionality, file manager, meeting minutes, change management, any of those topics. You can just kind of type in 2 or 3 words that will flag for us kind of what topics you found to be beneficial. Just give you a couple more seconds for this one. And then there's one more question after this. All right, I'm going to move to the next and last question. And this is to help with future. What topics would you like to see covered that were not included in the training? Or I guess also, you could list a topic that you wanted to see in more detail. All right, thank you very much for those that took the time to enter the poll. I think we had about 130 or so people, maybe slightly higher than that in today's session, and we were in and around 240 something from the last session. So definitely a great start to the training. We will make this session available on the technical publication site, the presentation, and then we'll also make the recording available within the CMS application. We haven't quite got it 100% figured out just where we're going to store it. We can link it to one of the engineering apps. We're just kind of finalizing that at the moment. So that will be available shortly, and we will communicate with all the people that were communicated with for these sessions initially. So unless there's any final questions that we haven't addressed. I think what is the expectation for the service provider use of CMS or each of the applications? So again, the expectation is to utilize CMS to the greatest extent possible. Obviously, invoices, submitting deliverables, just communicating within the system. There are some apps that are a little bit more flexible than others, like the meeting minutes application, for example. You can use it to its full functionality and track items and agendas and whatnot, or you can simply use it to upload a copy of your agenda and follow up. Like there's a bit of flexibility there. Obviously, File Manager has a lot of flexibility for how you store and track your files. We have the common structure there, but definitely for submitting deliverables, submitting change requests, change orders, invoices, we do want the ability to track those things in the system and be able to have better visibility across regions in the ministry, and for reporting and auditing purposes. We do want the information in there. And just a reminder that this is only for new contracts that are being kind of awarded, and generally ones that were advertised after April the 1st. So it will take time before we get all the contracts in the system, but it also allows us to get familiar with the system and pilot it out on contracts as they're awarded, as opposed to trying to bring in all existing contracts or contracts that are already in flight. That was definitely a challenge on the construction side, but we needed to do it that way. Is the service provider creating the draft invoice or the MTO? No, the service provider will be creating the draft invoice and submitting it to MTO.
But yes, the invoice can be uploaded as well, but it needs to be accurate within the system.
Yeah, you need to key in the different items, but if you have a standard format that you use and you wanted to attach that as well, that's definitely an option. All right. Well, I just want to say thank you again to everyone for joining today's training. Keep your eye out for future training in the past, and please, once your contract is awarded and you become onboarded as a user, feel free to reach out to us at the MTO at cms@ontario.ca, and we'll be happy to provide any assistance that we can. All right. Thanks again, everyone. Have a great day.